Hi, so what I'm going to demonstrate today is the making of a very simple box, quite a sturdy little box, and one with a little handle. These are useful for if you're in a retail environment and you want to sell things like small mugs or small glassware or little bits of pottery, something like that. The boxes can be made of any size, but I'm going to start today with a box which starts off life as a sheet of paper which is 12 inches by 12 inches. This is the very sheet of paper I have in front of me here. This is something bought from Hobbycraft, and you'll see that it's double-sided. It has a different pattern on both sides. That is quite important for this sort of box. You really would ideally want a box which has not necessarily the same pattern on both sides, but a sort of matching pattern. The colours are more or less go together, and this is sort of pink and red shades. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to cut this box down. Cut this piece of paper down from 12 by 12 to 9 by 12. In order to get a more or less square box, you need to have it sort of 4 parts to 3 parts. In this case, it's going to be 12 inches to 9 inches. So I'll just pause the video here while I cut this down from 12 inches to 9 inches. So there, through the magic of technology, this piece of paper has now come down from 9 inches to 12 inches. So now we can begin the main construction of the box. One of the things I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a piece of glass here. This piece of glass is just to make folding easier. I'm going to use, in order to help me make the folds correctly, I'm going to use something called a bone folder. It's not actually made of bone, it's made of some very hard plastic, but it is a very useful thing if you're going to do these in any quantity, and I make a lot of boxes, so I use it a lot. So the first thing we're going to do is to just fold the piece of paper in half, like so. There we go. I try and make these folds as accurate as possible, and then I'm going to use the bone folder to go along to make the fold as sharp as possible, and then we're going to fold it over in half again, like so. There we go. And again, use the bone folder to make it as sharp as possible. Then we can get rid of our piece of glass. Then we don't need that anymore. The next thing we're going to do is, well, you'll see now that's the way it is. The next thing we're going to do is, if I can find the pen here somewhere, there we are. In order to make life easier for ourselves so we can see where this fold is, we're going to draw a line right along this fold. Okay, so I'll do that now. There we are. So we've made the line just going along the fold so that we can see the fold more easily. So the next thing we need to do now is to bend this one piece here, not the whole of this, but just this one half, and we're going to bend this in to meet that line that we just marked out, which is the central fold. Be a little bit more accurate there. Accuracy in these things is very important. There we are, and then we make our bone folder there, and we're going to do the same at the other end. So we just bend this over like so, and use our bone folder. Okay, so that's those two loose ends done. Now we're going to turn it round, and now we're going to do the whole of this piece here and bend that in to meet where we folded the other piece over. Like so. When you're folding pieces of paper like this, you always try to be as accurate as possible. You're dealing with paper that sometimes might be a bit thick, doesn't want to do what you want it to do. But there we are. Now what we have is our piece of paper, and the folds we put in at the moment doesn't look anything at all like a box. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to have a slurp of my coffee, which is just alongside me here. There we go. The next thing now is we are going to turn it round, and we're going to fold the whole of this piece here along this fold here. See this fold here? Yep. We're going to fold that all the way over, and we try to line up the two edges here so that they're as close as possible. There we go. And then we use our bone folded again. There we go. Now we're going to push that back, and we're going to do the same thing with the other end. Fold it over, try and get these as close as possible. Use the bone folder, and there we go. Then finally we're going to fold this piece, which right over there like so. Okay, there we go. So we folded that right over there like so, and now we're going to again keep using the folder or a pen if you have one to keep sort of impressing that these folds are as sharp as possible. That's very important. So again, we still don't look anything like a box, but now we're going to start making some moves with the sheet here, and you'll gradually see something like a box begin to take shape. So along this fold here, now we're going to bend the paper up like so. There we are. And we're going to do the same on this one here, this fold here. Okay, so they're coming up like so, and you can probably see now that we have a sort of a half a box shape. Yeah, it's not a box yet, but is a sort of an almost boxy shape beginning to take place. The next thing I like to do is to just along this fold, just sharpen it up a little bit. Just makes it a little bit easier when you come to the final bit. There we go. Right, we're at this stage now. Now the next bit is where this is the sort of the counterintuitive bit, where the paper, you have to fold the paper in the way that the paper really doesn't normally want to go. So I will demonstrate this as clearly as I can. So we're taking this piece of paper here, this fold here, and we're going to move this fold up. Get that out of the way. Move this fold up. So this piece of paper here, so this edge goes to that edge there. You know whether you can see that? Those two edges have to come together. Let's move that out the way a little bit. We're all sort of folding up a little bit here. Here we are. So we've moved that up to there. We turn it over, still holding it, and then we just run our finger along, or our nail along that fold there. So what we've done, we've sort of impressed a fold along there. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing to the other side. Okay, so we're going to be moving this, I'll make it a little bit easier. We're going to be moving this edge to meet this edge here. Sometimes need to give it a little bit of encouragement. There we go. So now we have the two edges together. We hold them together just so they don't move around. We turn it upside down, and then we just run our finger along here to impress the fold as much as we can. And what we end up with is something that looks like this. So we've got these two sharp pointy bits pointing it together. Unfortunately, we don't want them pointing it together, we want them pointing the other way. However, it was easier to make these folds in the way that I showed you, rather than initially trying to do them the other way with them pointing out. That becomes a little bit too much for your fingers. So what we do now is we bend this so that instead of being a fold inwards, it's now going to be a fold outwards. Just take this and bend it out a little bit like that. So now we have this. We have a line down here, and as you can see, when I bend these two bits in like so, or if I bend them in that way, there's sort of a box shape beginning to take place. In fact, we're almost at the end, because the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take this loose bit here and we're going to tuck it underneath that fold there like so. Okay, and we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. We're going to take this fold and we're going to tuck it underneath there like so. Now I just like to take the bone folder and once again run over these folds. Okay, now we do have a box, and we have a quite useful box. It's actually quite sturdy, and this has been made from initially a piece of paper which was 12 inches by 12 inches, which I cut down to 9 inches by 12 inches, and you'll see it's more or less square. It might not be exactly square, but it's as close as doesn't make any difference. So the next stage that we would probably use with this is we want something, we could put a lid on it. There is a way of putting a lid on it. That's a different sort of box and does require some glue, but we could put a little box, a little top on it, a lid on it. However, I'm trying to use as little paper as possible to keep the cost down as much as possible. So you recall that we had a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and we knocked it down to a piece of paper which was 9 by 12. That means we have a piece of paper 3 inches by 12 inches, which I will now show you here. This is the piece of paper we had, which is 9 inches by 12 inches. Sorry, it's 3 inches by 12 inches. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to bend this piece of paper in half. Once again, I'm going to use my little piece of glass here. Now this is, because this is long, this is a little tricky, so we just need to take our time with this and try and get this as neat as possible. There we go. This is what we're going to use as a handle, and I can already tell you, because I've done this before, that the optimum length for this handle for this size of box is 7.5 inches. So I'm just going to cut this down to 7.5 inches. I'm going to use my guillotine to do that. So there's 7.5 inches there. Bring that up there. There we go. Chuck that bit of paper away. Now we have a handle. Oops. We have a handle. Now this handle is going to go on the box like so. So before we do that, there has to be some way of fixing the handle, and we're going to use 2 paper fasteners like that. 2 paper fasteners, very inexpensive. Another slip of coffee. That's better. And all we need to do is to join the handle onto the box. How are we going to do that? Well, we need an additional piece of equipment, a single hole punch. And I have a single hole punch here. Now, if you look at this box, you will see that, particularly if you're holding it, you'll see that there's one thinnish side there, and where the 2 folds have been made here, that's a lot thicker. So the thick bit is the bit that we're going to punch the holes through. Okay, so all we do is we take our single hole punch. We try to get it as close to the center as possible. That's probably about right there. We just punch a hole all the way through. So there's our first hole, and again we do the same on the opposite side. Yep. And try and get it as close to the middle as possible. That's probably about right. There we go. So now we have holes on both sides. Now we need to do the same on our handle. Same thing. One there. And one there. Okay, now all we need to do is fix our handle onto our box, which is simplicity itself. We're just going to use these little paper fasteners. So first thing we do is we push the paper fastener through the handle, and then we push the paper fastener through the box, and then we splay out the inside of the paper fastener like so. If you want to be sort of make a super job of this, you could stick a little bit of card over there just to make sure that nobody actually sees the fastener, just over there like so. I'm not going to bother here. So the other thing we do now is we have to fix the other side. So we bend our handle over a little bit, and we put our little paper fastener through. I think these are called brads. Anyway, and it goes through there like that, and splay them out inside. And we now have quite a sturdy little box with a handle. And if you are selling something, you put your object in there. Maybe you would wrap it in a piece of tissue paper or something, and then the customer can easily handle it, carry it away, and it's quite safe inside that box. As I say, there's no glue at all has been involved in this. It's the only things that we've used are one sheet of double-sided paper, which was 12 inches by 12 inches, from which we made both the handle and the box, and we used 2 of these little paper fasteners, and there we have a box. Here's another one I made earlier, and you can see that they're both more or less the same, they're just different colours. This particular paper is double-sided. As I said, it is a sort of a rough match. If there's a weakness in this technique, it's that you have to have a piece of double-sided paper, otherwise you end up with a pattern and just plain white. But I like to use something which has got two colours on it, and I think you'll agree they're quite pleasant boxes. The size of box depends obviously on the size of paper. You can make a small box from a piece of A4 paper, that's fine. If you've got A3, then the box will be substantially bigger and can take something like a bigger mug or a little jug or something of that nature. So that's it. That's the